Welcome into Tailgate Thursday for week number 12 of the 2025 football season. My name is David Morrison from the Ball Society, here to preview the upcoming college football games this weekend. We begin with our beloved Tennessee Volunteers, ranked number 23 in the college football playoff top 25 poll. Welcomes in New Mexico State for homecoming 2025. Tennessee coming off a bye week after suffering their loss to Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. Now they once they just get back on the field, try to clean up some mistakes from that Oklahoma game and get ready for Florida the next week. So we'll see what happens in this one. New Mexico State's 3-6 on the year, averaging under 22 points per game. So I expect Tennessee to go in there and handle business and come away with a win. But it's the Aggies and the Vols Saturday. We got a couple of big-time SEC games. We begin in Athens, Georgia for a top 10 showdown. Number 10, Texas, taking on number 5, Georgia, 7:30 on ABC. Texas Longhorns jump back into the college football playoff top 12 bracket. If the season ended today, they would play there. And now they got to go on the road to take on Georgia. Texas has really struggled on the road this year, already with losses at Ohio State and Florida, and a couple overtime wins at Mississippi State and Kentucky. Can they go over this road hump, or will Georgia and the Dogs continue their winning ways? Last year it was Georgia who went to Austin and picked up the win. Can we see the same thing? We'll find out. Longhorns and Bulldogs, Saturday night, 3:30 on ABC. We head to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Another interesting matchup. Number 11, Oklahoma at number 4, Alabama, 3:30 ABC. Oklahoma coming off the big win over Tennessee. Now back on the road again, taking on Alabama. Has Oklahoma finally got back into playing legit football? I know the first half of that Tennessee game, Oklahoma was really struggling, but we're up at the half, and then just too many mistakes by Tennessee that led Oklahoma the win. But huge win for Brent Venables. Now they got to take on a team they beat last year in the Crimson Tide. Meanwhile, for Alabama, you're just trying to get to Atlanta at this point. Right now, you would play Texas A&M in the SEC championship of the game, or if the season ended today. But we'll see what happens. Sooners and Tide Saturday afternoon, noon on ESPN. We head to Kyle Field in College Station, South Carolina, taking on number 3, Texas A&M, noon on ESPN. For Texas A&M, just trying to continue to win. Big win on the road last week at Missouri. Now welcomes in a South Carolina team that's just not having much of a season at all. We'll see what happens. Crazy things have happened, but South Carolina already fired their offensive coordinator. And now how are they going to kind of get a little bit of a boost after letting go their OC? We'll see. It's going to be tough on the road, especially a very good A&M defense. And, for Texas A&M, like I said, tried to continue their winning ways and to get to Atlanta for the SEC championship. But it's the Gamecocks and the Aggies, Saturday afternoon, 12:45 SEC Network. A very interesting game, and a game that LSU doesn't like playing in this time slot, but it is Arkansas at LSU, 12:45 on SEC Network, 11:45 local time. Couple of teams that are just trying to get through this season. Obviously, both teams looking for new coaches next year. For Arkansas, they've looking. I'm still looking for their first SEC win, if I'm not mistaken. But with Bobby Petrino and company, just trying to survive this season. And for LSU, still in contention for a bowl game, but how's this Tiger team going to do early on? It's like you may have Van Buren going at quarterback for LSU over Nussmeier, so we'll see what happens. Kind of a sleepy game, but could be an entertaining game. The Hogs and the Tigers. An interesting matchup, 1:30 on SEC Plus. The undefeated Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles heading to Kroger Field to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Just a fantastic season for Tech. One of the top programs in the FCS, one of the top defenses. pretty solid offense. So can we see an upset here? Be interesting to see. There's actually a point spread for this. Normally, you don't have point spreads when FCS teams take on FBS, but Kentucky is a 20-point favorite in this one. So we'll see what happens. I feel like Kentucky is playing better. They're trying to get to a bowl game. They're still just need like a couple more wins, and they're playing better under Mark Stoops. But we'll see what happens as the Golden Eagles and the Wildcats meet Saturday. Prime time, 7 o'clock. Florida going to Ole Miss. Rebels number 7 in the nation, 7 o'clock ESPN. For Ole Miss, I think you're fine at this point. Although this game is kind of interesting with the rumors of Lane Kiffin leaving for other jobs, and the Florida job is open, and one of the odds-on favorite to land that Florida job. So I'm sure there's going to be some storylines sprinkled in this broadcast about it. But knowing Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, I'm sure they're just trying to focus on getting the win. Meanwhile, for Florida, just a very flat performance at Kentucky last week. Feels like they've kind of checked out for the year. But we'll see if they can kind of get motivated next week when Tennessee goes to the small place Tennessee hasn't won at since 2003. So we'll see what happens. Gators and Rebels. All right, last SEC game, Mississippi State at Missouri, 7:45 SEC Network. Mizzou out of the playoff discussion after the loss to A&M, unranked also. Now you're taking on a Mississippi State team that, a little bit like Arkansas, except they got a win over Arkansas. Just trying to find an identity. Another team that's just, can still at least get bowl eligible this year, but they're going to have to find a way to get a couple more wins. They're like 4-6 at this point, and you got the Egg Bowl still to come, and and this game. So we'll see what happens with Mississippi State. For Mizzou, just a disappointing season, but still a solid season for Eli Drinkwitz, another guy that's up for discussion and coaching rumor, and where he might be at next year. But we'll see what happens. Bulldogs and Tigers. All right, let's go across the nation. We'll get you out of here. Let's take a look at the two undefeated teams in the Big Ten. We start with Indiana welcomes in Wisconsin for a noon game on Big Ten Network. Wisconsin announced that Luke Fickell will return back as head coach for the Wisconsin Badgers. So interesting scenario in that with that team. Can he turn it around and try to play some serious ball? Meanwhile for Indiana, you're just trying to wait for the showdown with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. But we'll see. Badgers and Hoosiers. And then finally on this Big Ten undefeated teams, number 1 Ohio State takes on UCLA, 7:30 NBC. I think Vol fans are obviously knows what's going on with UCLA and their quarterback, and it's just started out really bad, kind of got a little bit better, but now kind of playing back to where they once were. This is a tough environment for the Bruins. And meanwhile, for Ohio State, same thing. Just try to get to the Big Ten championship game. Of course, you still got Michigan at the end of the year, a team that Ohio State hasn't beat in a few years now. So a lot of pressure for Ryan Day and company. But we'll see what happens, Bruins and Buckeyes. All right, so let's go across the nation again. Number 9, Notre Dame, heading to the Steel City to take on number 22, Pittsburgh. Noon on ABC. College Game Day will be there. Notre Dame, a 7-game winning streak so far, playing very well after starting the season 0-2, just racking out wins. It's going to be interesting to see how they do on the road at Pitt. Meanwhile, for the Panthers, they've won 5 in a row. They've made a switch at quarterback. That seems like that's been more of a positive run for them, racking up ACC wins and now ranked in the top 25. Maybe they can get to Charlotte. I know this is a non-conference game, but they continue to play very well and see how some of these other ACC teams will do down the stretch. But we'll see what happens between the Irish and the Panthers. Interesting game in the American Conference. We got number 24 South Florida heading to Annapolis to take on the Navy Midshipmen, noon on ESPN2. South Florida, the last team in the college football playoffs, being the highest group of 5 champion. And of course, Navy has the same record as South Florida. Battle for first place in the American. Huge game for both programs, especially for Navy trying to get to the CFP. They still have Army in December. Of course, they always play every year around that time. So Well, I think there's some interesting pressure on for Navy to hang on and get a win and also play in the American Championship. But South Florida, been a solid season for Alan Skolach, South Florida Bulls team. But it is the Bulls and the midshipmen. And then finally, 3:30 on Big Ten Network. Number 21 Iowa taking on number 17 USC. 3:30 on Big Ten Network. Surprised this is not the CBS game, but whatever. Iowa, boy, they really did a great job and did everything in their power to try to get that win at home against Oregon. They slowed down Oregon's offense, played solid defense, kept it low scoring. The weather was a big factor. The cold temperatures, but at the end of the day, it was the Oregon Ducks who came away with the win. Meanwhile, for USC, they're actually going to, I think it's supposed to rain at the Coliseum, like heavy rain. So it might put the advantage for Iowa as a favor in that one. But, we'll see what happens in this one. USC not really in contention for a playoff spot, but definitely trying to get a solid bowl game for the Big Ten. But it is the Hawkeyes and the Trojans. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Tailgate Thursday. We're glad you tuned in and watched us. And as always, thank you for being a loyal Vol Society watcher and follower. Continue to follow us on our social media pages. Until next time, this